Right, so good it is. We're diving into the mind of a genius today.
Yeah.
Someone who thought they had figured out how to live a truly meaningful life.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? It's H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
The guy behind, like, War of the Worlds and The Time Machine.
That's right. You probably know him for those awesome sci-fi books.
Right.
But Wells was also super interested in, like, the here and now.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to live a good life, you know?
Mm.
He even wrote a whole book about his personal philosophy, his own rule of life. It's called First and Last Things.
So no time travel or aliens today, huh?
Well, not exactly.
Fair.
We're going deeper, I
Okay.
guess, like behind the scenes to see how a brilliant mind, like his,
Yeah.
wrestled with questions about believing and purpose,
Mm-hmm.
even good and evil.
Okay. I mean, where do we even start with a mind like that?
So Wells starts with something we all do every single day,
Yeah.
believing,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't just accept it. You know, he breaks down how we form those beliefs.
Okay.
And he makes this really interesting argument that language...
The words we use
Yeah.
can actually limit our understanding.
Wait, so the words we use are holding us back. How?
Yeah, think of it like you're looking at one of those pictures made of tiny squares,
Okay.
like
Oh.
pixels, from far away.
Yeah.
It looks like a real picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you get closer,
Mm-hmm.
you see those individual squares, you see the gaps, and you realize that the picture, it's just like an approximation.
Okay.
Wells says our words and ideas are kind of like those pixels.
Interesting.
They work okay from a distance,
They
but when
might.
you zoom in, you see their problems, you know?
So he's saying our language can't really capture the whole complexity of the world,
Exactly.
especially when it comes to these big abstract ideas.
Yeah, it's like trying to explain how vast the ocean is
Right.
using just a few drops of water.
Okay.
And this whole problem with language
Yeah.
is something to keep in mind as we go deeper into Wells's ideas,
Mm-hmm.
because it really shapes his whole approach to belief. So language has flaws. Where does he go from there? Does he just give up and say, we can't know anything for
Yeah.
sure?
No, not at all.
Okay.
He actually makes a conscious choice,
Hmm.
what he calls an act of faith,
Hmm.
to believe in something he calls the scheme.
The scheme.
Yeah, you can think of it like a universal plan,
Okay.
a guiding force that connects everything and gives it meaning.
Okay.
But here's the thing, he avoids calling it God.
Really?
Because he wants to encourage people to think outside traditional religion.
Hold on. So the sci-fi guy
Yeah,
is making a leap of faith.
right.
I thought we were talking logic and reason.
Yeah, it seems surprising, right?
Yeah.
But it makes sense when you think about what was happening in Wells's time.
Okay.
He was writing when this philosophy called existentialism was becoming really popular.
Oh.
And that emphasizes individual responsibility in a world that seems meaningless.
Right.
So this idea of choosing to believe in something bigger,
Yeah.
even without absolute proof, really resonated with a lot of thinkers back then.
So he sees the limits of thinking, but chooses to believe anyway.
Yeah,
That's a bold move.
it is. And it takes him right into the whole free will versus determinism debate.
Oh boy, that's a big one.
Yeah. Do we actually control our actions, or is it already decided?
The guy wrote about time travel, so I'm sure he had some thoughts.
He did. He leans toward determinism,
Okay.
but on a cosmic scale.
Okay.
Like, he suggests that if we could see the entire universe, everything would look like it's unfolding according to a plan.
Okay, so like a giant clock, and
Exactly.
we're all just cogs.
Kinda, yeah. That's where Wells gets nuanced, though.
Okay.
He believes in that big picture determinism, but he also says that believing in free will
Yeah.
is super important for our daily lives.
So the universe is a clock,
Mm-hmm.
but I still have to believe I'm winding it up.
It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
But think about it, if we really believed everything was already decided,
Right.
it'd be hard to find motivation for anything. That's true.
Why bother making choices if they're already made for you?
Yeah.
So even if the universe has this level of predetermination that we can't really grasp,
Yeah.
believing in free will is essential for making choices, taking action,
Yeah.
and creating a meaningful life, you know?
So we might be playing a game with preset rules, but
Mhm.
we still get to choose how we play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of Wells's most interesting ideas.
Okay.
Salvation.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What kind of salvation are we talking about?
Not the traditional kind, no pearly gates or anything like that.
Okay, good.
For Wells, salvation is about reaching this inner peace and clarity.
Oh, yeah.
Like this mental and emotional balance
Yeah.
that helps you act according to your true purpose. So imagine you're lost and confused, like
Yeah.
wandering through a maze.
Okay.
Salvation is like finding your way out and seeing the whole picture.
So it's not about being saved by something outside of me. It's
Right.
more about finding that inner peace.
So I can act in line with my values.
Exactly. And he's not talking about reaching some perfect state either.
Oh, God.
He recognizes that we're always trying to balance our desires and motivations.
So like having a million tabs open in my brain,
Yes.
constantly juggling priorities.
Exactly. Wells even talks about his own struggle to reconcile
Yeah.
the need for gratification and the thirst for new experiences and the drive for self-assertion.
Okay, so salvation isn't about eliminating those desires.
No.
It's about making them work together.
Exactly. And he believes finding this inner harmony
Yeah.
is key to feeling good and acting ethically in the world.
Interesting.
It's about finding that balance between your needs and the needs of the community.
This is starting to sound a lot like modern self-help and mindfulness.
You're right. There are definitely connections.
Yeah.
Even though he was writing over a century ago,
Right.
his insights about being human and searching for meaning are super relevant today.
Absolutely.
He gives us a framework for thinking about how to live well, not just feel good,
Yeah.
how to act in a way that contributes to something bigger than ourselves.
I like that.
Okay.
So we've got this foundation of belief.
Yeah.
This wrestling with free will and destiny.
Mhm.
This striving for salvation.
Right.
Where does he go from there? What does he actually propose we do with all this insight?
Well, this is where he introduces one of his most thought-provoking ideas,
Okay, let's hear it.
the samurai.
Like the warriors with the swords.
Yeah.
Is this where the sci-fi comes back in?
Well, not exactly.
Oh.
He envisions a group of people dedicated to serving humanity
Right.
and guiding its progress, but don't picture them in armor.
Okay.
Think more like a secular monastic order
Okay.
for intellectuals and social reformers.
So like philosophy-loving, cold water bathing super citizens.
Yeah, something like that. Wells always had big ideas.
That's true.
And this one reflects his socialist leanings
Okay.
and his belief in the power of collective action. He really thought that if enough people embraced this disciplined, selfless lifestyle,
Oh, yeah.
they could steer humanity toward a better future.
That's a pretty wild concept.
It is. It was a thought experiment, though.
Okay.
Wells was pushing boundaries, asking what if
Yeah.
to challenge how we think about how we live in organized society.
Right.
He wasn't so worried about practicality. He wanted to spark new ways of thinking about our place in the world.
I like that. It's good to think outside the box sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine impossible things to see what's possible.
Right, and his ideas about the samurai are just the beginning.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, he tackles other tough topics, too, like
really?
love and sex and marriage.
Okay, whoa, now I'm really curious.
He had some pretty progressive views for his time.
But before we get into that, maybe we should take a breath and let all this sink in.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
We have.
Maybe it's a good spot to pause and let everyone digest these first concepts
Okay,
before we dive into the more radical parts of Wells's vision for a better future.
sounds good.
So welcome back to our deep dive into H.G. Wells.
All right.
Before we took a break, we were talking about Wells's concept of the samurai.
Right, those like super citizens
Yeah.
dedicated to helping humanity move forward.
Exactly. And I have to admit, that whole idea, those philosophy-loving Spartan warriors, it's really stuck with me.
Me too.
Hmm.
It's a fascinating mix of self-discipline
Right.
and social responsibility.
It is. And it gets even more interesting when we look at how Wells thought they would live and organize themselves.
Okay, I'm all ears. What would a typical day look like for a samurai?
Well, for one thing, they'd follow a strict routine of physical and mental discipline.
Okay.
Think daily cold baths,
Oh, wow.
regular exercise,
Yeah.
and a super simple diet.
So like futuristic Spartans.
Not quite that hardcore,
Huh.
but Walls definitely believed in self-mastery.
Yeah.
He saw it as crucial for developing willpower, focus,
Mm-hmm.
and a strong sense of purpose.
So it's not just about being physically fit. It's about training your mind and body to serve something bigger.
Exactly. And the samurai wouldn't just focus on self-improvement.
Right.
They'd be super involved in social and political life, too.
Okay, so no hiding away in a monastery.
No, they're meant to be out in the world making a difference.
So what were they doing?
Well, Wells imagined them as leaders in their communities,
Oh.
working to improve education, promote social justice, and advance scientific understanding.
I could see how that would fit with Wells's progressive side.
Yeah.
He was all about using knowledge and reason to solve problems.
Exactly. But it makes you wonder how this elite group would interact with everyone else.
That's what I'm thinking. Would they be like philosopher kings,
Ah, interesting question.
ruling over everyone?
Well, that gets to one of the tricky parts of Wells's thinking.
Okay.
He saw the samurai as really capable,
Yeah.
but not as rulers.
Okay.
He imagined them more as educators, advisors, advocates, inspiring others to embrace that same commitment to service and progress.
So leading by example, not by force.
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting approach.
It is, but I'm still trying to figure out how this idea of a highly organized group
Right.
fits with Wells's emphasis on individual freedom and experimentation.
That's a good point. It's one of the most interesting paradoxes in his philosophy.
Okay.
He was all about individual liberty and personal growth, but he also saw the need for social responsibility and collective action.
Yeah, to tackle the big problems.
Exactly. So how did he reconcile those two things?
Right. They seem to be pulling in opposite directions.
I think it comes back to his concept of the will to love.
Okay.
He believed that true love,
Yeah.
the kind that expands your sense of self and connects you to something bigger,
Yeah.
could motivate you to act in ways that benefit everyone.
So it's not about sacrificing your individuality.
No.
It's about finding a way to harmonize the two.
Precisely. And that's where the samurai come in.
Okay.
They represent this ideal of people who have developed their own unique skills and perspectives, but who also recognize their connection to humanity as a whole. They've found that balance between personal fulfillment and social responsibility.
It's an inspiring vision, but I can't help but be a little skeptical.
Sure, I get that.
Is it really possible to reach that level of integration?
Yeah.
That sense of balance between our own needs and the needs of others?
It's a tough challenge, and Wells knew that he wasn't naive about human nature and the difficulties of social change, but he believed that striving for this ideal was crucial, both for our own well-being and for the future of humanity.
So it's not about reaching some perfect state. It's about constantly working towards a better version of ourselves in a cool world.
Exactly. And Wells believed that this process of growth and transformation required both inner work and outward action.
What do you mean by that?
He advocated for a balanced approach to life, one that nurtured both individual and collective potential.
Yeah.
He emphasized self-reflection, taking time to examine your thoughts, motives, actions, to become more self-aware and make better choices.
So a little introspection goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. Wells saw it as crucial for moral development,
Okay.
but he didn't stop there.
What else?
He also believed in the power of dialogue and debate,
Okay.
having thoughtful conversations with others to refine your thinking and challenge your assumptions.
So like a collective consciousness.
Yeah, learning from each other and expanding your perspectives
Yeah.
through honest communication.
Exactly. He saw a conversation as a vital tool for building understanding and empathy,
Even when you disagree.
especially when you disagree. It's about learning from each other,
Right.
sharpening your ideas and finding common ground.
So it's not about winning arguments.
No.
It's about seeking truth.
Exactly. And Wells didn't just focus on the mind.
Okay.
He also believed in taking care of your body and doing meaningful work.
So it's a pretty holistic approach.
It is.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to his belief that our lives are interconnected.
That the choices we make affect others.
So it's not just about personal happiness.
Right.
It's about contributing to the well-being of everyone.
Precisely. Wells believed that by living in alignment with this bigger purpose, we could create a more just compassionate and fulfilling world.
It's a beautiful vision.
It is.
But I wonder if it's a little too idealistic.
I understand that.
Did Wells really think humanity could reach this level of harmony and progress?
Yeah.
I mean, he lived through some really tough times
It,
with lots of conflict and division.
right.
Did he really think we could overcome all that and create a world where everyone is working for the common good?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's one we'll explore further after a quick break.
Okay.
We've looked at the main parts of Wells's philosophy,
Yeah.
but this question of whether he truly believed in humanity's potential to achieve this kind of utopia, it deserves its own careful consideration.
Okay. So we're back, and I'm still thinking about whether Wells really believed humanity could reach this, like, harmony and progress he talked about.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially after seeing so much conflict in his own life.
it's a tough one, right? You have this optimistic vision of the samurai,
Right.
this will to love, pushing us toward a better future.
Yeah.
But then you have the reality of history,
Yeah.
wars and equality, all the stuff we seem to be so good at.
Right. So was he a dreamer or a cynic?
I don't think it's that simple. You can't really put him in a box like that.
Okay.
Wells was definitely aware of human flaws.
Hmm.
He saw our potential for both good and bad.
Yeah.
And he thought history was this constant struggle between those two forces.
So not a guaranteed happy ending then?
No, more like a choose-your-own-adventure.
Okay, I like that.
Where we're still writing the story.
Yeah.
Wells believed we can shape our destiny, but it takes effort. You know, conscious effort, critical thinking.
Okay.
And a willingness to challenge the way things are.
So no sitting back and waiting for progress to magically happen?
Nope. We have to actively create the future we want.
So what does that look like practically?
Well, Wells thought it depended on both personal change and collective action.
Okay.
It's not enough to just focus on being a good person.
Right.
We also need to work together to build a more just and fair society.
Sounds like he was calling for people to be more involved in their communities.
Yeah, an engaged citizenry who combine inner growth with social responsibility.
And he wasn't afraid to criticize people who took shortcuts or avoided the hard work?
No, he called them out.
Interesting. Who did he target?
He went after both the complacent elite
Okay.
and those who advocated for violent revolution.
So no room for bystanders. Everyone has to participate.
In Wells's world, yes.
And how do we do that effectively?
He believed education was key.
Okay.
Critical thinking and open dialogue.
Right.
He saw ignorance, dogma, and rigid ideology as the biggest roadblocks to progress.
It makes me think about his idea of salvation again.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding inner peace.
Right.
It's about becoming more informed.
Yes.
More engaged, more responsible citizens.
Exactly. Wells saw our personal development as inseparable from the well-being of the community.
Yeah.
We can't truly thrive as individuals if the world around us is full of injustice.
So it's about transforming the world, not retreating from it.
Yes. Wells challenged us to face the complexities of our time head-on and work together to build a future that reflects our best selves.
I love that idea. It's powerful.
It is. And even if his ideas seem a bit idealistic, they remind us that we have a say in shaping the destiny of humanity.
Absolutely. I think that's a great takeaway from our deep dive into Wells's thinking.
Me too.
He may not have had all the answers,
Right.
but he knew how to ask the important questions.
Yeah, the ones that push us to think beyond ourselves.
Exactly. And consider how our choices affect the world around us.
I agree. This deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It really has. Wells's ideas are challenging, sometimes contradictory, but always thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Definitely, I have a feeling we'll be coming back to this again and again.
Me too.
Yeah.
As we finish up exploring Wells's rule of life, I want to leave you with a question that he posed.
Okay.
If you had to design your own rule of life, what would it look like? What values would you prioritize and what actions would you commit to?
Wow. That's a great question.
It is. It's a challenge to take what we've learned from Wells and apply it to our own lives, to create our own path toward meaning and purpose.
And who knows, maybe along the way we'll contribute to that larger scheme that Wells believed in so strongly. Thanks for joining us in this fascinating deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.